Hello, you will see Grandma in one moment. Here we go.
Joni, give these to Greg, please.
I'll hold it. I'll hold it like that.
Okay.
That's what I did last time.
Okay, folks.
Hedy?
Can I welcome everybody?
Yes.
Welcome, all of you. Thank you for being here. We are sitting in the backyard, and we know that it's supposed to rain, but in case it does, we'll quickly dash away, okay? But don't let it rain for another hour, okay? Thank you. Guys, I'm going to speak about, as I always do at the beginning, of children with special needs. I don't know the correct word to use because there's still a lot of arguing about whether to say handicapped or special needs. And let me just say, it's people I've gotten to know and love very much. And what I want to do, I want to speak about a special family because I lost the page. Hold on a minute. Here you go. It's called the Teresa. First of all, here's the book of drawings I did about children with special needs. And I want to turn immediately to the Teresa Foundation because this is going to be about little Teresa. Okay? How did we get to know them? It's because Vince Russo loved John Lennon, and my husband Eric, we had a frame shop, and he did framing for Yoko Ono, and so we got all these John Lennons in our place, and that's what brought Vince in. And a deep friendship developed with the whole family because they had a little girl born with cerebral palsy and were told it won't work out. Leave her. Put her in an institution. Now there are cases where people must be going into an institution, but not in all cases. And they figured out a way in which they could raise their children to accept little Teresa. Now they had 3 other children, and they wove into our lives. We never met little Teresa until she passed away, but we know of her. And what I'd like to mention is there's a Renaissance coming. And the Renaissance will be, I believe, when we begin to look at people and see them instead of judging them. They didn't judge little Teresa. They took her home, and I spoke to, this is going to be also very much about one of their sons, Dante Russo. And to go back with that, my husband Eric would not allow the kids or himself to watch anything about concentration camp and the Holocaust because he had been a concentration camp survivor, and he felt that people would never understand because when they showed it, they showed the dead, the dying. And we were called by Dante's family if we could go, I believe it was in Pennsylvania. It was so many years ago, about a good 40 years ago that this happened. And we went down to see him and the play. And Dante had produced a play about the Holocaust. And Eric was completely quiet during that time. What he said was, he has never seen anything about the Holocaust that really felt right. Because again, to him, it was deeper than the dying bodies, because he had been there. And Dante just had music, people singing, sad songs, but it was just that. And in the middle of it, there was a fence. And it was the fence that got him, because it explained everything that the concentration camp meant. You didn't have to show dead bodies. You didn't have to show cruelty. You just had to show the fence. And I'm mentioning this also because the fence that bothers my family and me the most right now, this many years after concentration camp, is that we are taking children away from their families at the border. We're not taking the whole family, which would be much easier if we put them into prisons or wherever we would, if we don't want them to come here. But when you separate children from parents, the loss, the pain goes on for generations. It stayed with my husband Eric until the day he passed away. And so I'm doing a double statement with the Teresa Foundation. I'm saying, don't separate children from their families. Now let me go back. Dante did a play which was so great because he zeroed in on the fence. And that's why Eric, when he spoke to the players later on, and to Dante, he said, it's the first time that I could identify with what those years were. You understood. Dante did another play lately. He did 2 socks, where one was lost in the laundry, and the one which remained began to search for his partner. And today when I spoke to Dante, I said, what were you saying with that? And he said, when you lose somebody. And I said, could that be also little Teresa? And he said, yes, because she was one of us. And I said, Dante, how did your mother and father do what they did? How did they raise a family when there were such difficulties in the eyes of the rest of the world? And he said, here's what they did. They treated her and us in the same way. There was no difference. And so she felt she belonged to us. And we all belonged together. And all of you who are facing something of loss, Dante's story of the socks could be one. Because what he said to me, you always search for the one you lost. And so this is an emotional one for me, because all of us have lost people. And another one that ties into that is those children who were put into institutions because there was no choice, whose parents came to visit them every week, as Harvey did. We're not allowed to touch them or see them. Now, in a nation as brilliant as ours, with all kinds of machines for connecting with each other, you can't tell me that Harvey's child and others like him had to be put away in such a way that we couldn't use a television screen, that we couldn't reach a hand to a child of ours which is used to being touched every week. I want to change the world. This is one of the things that we have to deal with, to see each, as the Russos did, as part of us. And then we couldn't have slavery, and we couldn't have prejudice. How much time do I have left?
18 minutes.
Okay. Could some of you state if this affects you?
Let me tell you who's on the call.
Yes.
Hernan Posa, Joe Tripp, Joe Sands, Michelle Kaushaka, Phyllis Hoffman, Michael Kerr, Tammy Smith, Sunu Chandy, Donan Iacavoni, Susan Glauberman La Rosa, and Wendell Wyatt.
Oh, I love you all. You're all connected to me. Let me say something important. Joe Schrand, Uncle Joe, is on. I am learning what you taught me. Do you notice how I don't speak about hate anymore? Now I speak about curing. Remember when you spoke to me and you gave me advice? There are 3 people whom I called before I began these programs, which I hope to continue for many, many years. I want to live to 100, and I'm only 91, okay? So prepare for your Monday nights.
So Greg Romer has a question for you.
Yes.
Can you talk about when you learned to let go of judgment and how that connected to your ability to capture resemblance?
Wow. Greg, I saved that for last week, but let me begin right now because it's long enough. Okay? Because and next week I'm going to be talking about Mickey Berglass, from whom I learned how not to judge. But let me answer this because it's so important. Whenever we learn something new, we don't learn it and know it. We don't. It sifts in. I should be louder.
Look at me.
I should look there. Okay.
Look at the camera.
Okay, I look at the camera. Where is the camera? Right there. Okay. It's just them in the backyard, and there's so much to see. Okay. This is important. When somebody teaches you something, and you're eager to learn, that doesn't mean you understand it. It takes a long time to place it into your brain, find the correct spot for it, and then let it work. Important things don't stay when you put them there.
Tell the story about the artist learning to draw a cat.
Yes, yes. This airplane, go away, go away, go away. I have no time for you. Okay. Greenwich Village. Now I can't go there, neither can you. I don't know if it's showing now, but every year I would go down to the Greenwich Village Art Show. And one day I saw a man who drew cats, but I have never seen cats drawn like that. They were living. And I said to him, I don't understand how. How did you capture what a cat is with all these little drawings you have? Because I can feel them. And he said, I never sit down and draw the cat. I draw whatever the cat allows me to draw. I just sit and wait. And whenever she poses, I maybe catch one foot, maybe the tail, maybe the nose, but it's the cat's choice. And I draw and I draw and I draw whatever she allows, and suddenly I understand her.
So Greg's question, can you talk about when you learned to let go of judgment and how that connected to your ability to capture resemblances?
I haven't yet let go, but I try. You know, and suddenly I can get resemblances easier. I have a long way to go. You see, if I take a photograph of you, you'll say, oh, it looks just like me. Or you'll say, I don't look that way. Because cameras catch you the way you are at that moment. But an artist has to do it all. And a friend called me and said, can I come and visit? And I said, sure, you can sit 6 feet apart from me. And she came. And this is a woman with whom we had only talked a little bit, mostly about the world, of family, things like that. And she came and she sat down and she went like this and she began to sing. And I said, Rhoda, I didn't know you sing. And she said, always. When I was a kid, I sang all the time. And I said, but why didn't you tell me? And she said, but I'm here now, and I'll sing. And I went home. I went to bed that night, and I thought, then if I draw a person, I've got to draw who they are. And if they don't tell me, I don't know who they are. So now when somebody sits down and poses for me, I make them talk about themselves. I have a friend who's a wonderful cook, but her cooking means setting the table and welcoming us. And I tried to draw her years ago. No, not years ago. A couple of years ago. Or months ago. At 91, you don't really remember. And we talked about politics. And she didn't look like herself. And I said, I can't do it. So now I told her that, and she's going to pose. She'll have to bring her utensils and feed me. We are not what we think we are. And so it'll take me at least until I'm 100 to learn how not to judge. 5 minutes, okay.
10 minutes.
I spoke to 3 people who heal people in separate worlds. One of them was Uncle Joe. And he told me that anger is good, but you have to learn what to do with it. Because without anger, you cannot heal. And he could talk about that. I spoke to Harvey. I said, how do you judge people if you need to heal them? And he said, first I find out what can they not do and what can they do. And then I heal them. I help them according to what they need. And then there is another hero of mine, David Rothenberg. I've been a volunteer. Actually, Eric and I were volunteers at Sing Sing. And during the summer, when they had vacation, our daughter and son also did. I have learned more about not judging from teaching in the prison. And next week I'm going to speak about that. But first I spoke to David Rothenberg, who is another one of my heroes. And I said, how do you heal people? And he said, I found out about their past first, because people deal out of their past. And that'll be next week.
You have 9 minutes, Mama.
I'm rich.
Yes.
Okay. Let me go back to Dante and the Teresa Foundation. I asked him, tell me how it was going. And it's not raining, because we were thinking of dashing home again. Please go. I don't have much time. Okay. And what he said was, we were not different. The 4 of us were the same. Teresa, my brother, my sister, and I, the 4 of us, we were together. We were treated the same way, and we didn't see a difference. And I think, to answer Greg's question, if you do not allow yourself to create a difference, competition, to create a difference. Do not create a difference, because someday I can make a new painting, and the painting will have the children being returned to their families. Until then, this is going to be the symbol for learning to accept each other and not to see each other as different. And that if people flee from a different country where they are in danger of being killed, if you cannot let them in, keep them together. Don't separate the children.
Greg asked, you say that you are learning to listen to your body's messages every day. Tell us more about that.
I found out something, and it happened yesterday. When I had the lupus, I kept thinking, why do I say I don't like myself, or I should change this in myself? Why do we speak of I and myself? Why are we separate? And I figured out it's got to be the mind getting angry with the body because I neglected the body. And then, would you believe, last night I found out who the I and the myself was. My son, who's a psychotherapist, coaches me every night by saying, what did your inner mentor say today? And my inner mentor is the part. I know exactly what he means. It's the part that says, you didn't do this today. You were going to not rush, and you rushed. The inner mentor is the part of us that protects us, the part that we need to listen to, and we ignore. Today my inner mentor said, Hedy, prepare. Everybody told you last week was the best because I was prepared. Today I wrote down everything and I am prepared.
Lorraine Seif-Schwal says, Hedy, I have known you for 50 years and you become more radiant each time I see you. When did you realize you're so wise? Do you think maybe you were born with a head start of common sense and a good helping of wisdom? Is there a possibility when you paint someone who does not want to divulge information about themselves that you can sense through their eyes or body language who they are? I love you dearly.
Lorraine, you're one of my teachers. Whenever you complimented me on something, when you asked me advice about somebody, and I gave you the correct advice, you enlarged me. You made me trust myself. But you see, you are one of the giving people in the world. You have always given and given and given, but you didn't ask for anything in return. And then you were shocked when it happened, that you suddenly allowed somebody to give you a compliment. And that's why you think I'm great, because you allowed me to tell you how wonderful you are. Lorraine is a nurse who heals people. She really heals. Thank you, Lorraine.
So other people who are here, Mary Lou Bilgray de Rodriguez.
Oh, please.
Says we have to meet someday. Hope it can be very soon. Barbara Feaster is watching. Stephen Schlussel says you're his favorite neighbor. Melinda Roth Epstein says hello. And Jeffrey Kisman is watching.
Can I just say, during this blackout which we had, because here nothing worked for a while after the storm. The lights didn't work, that my iPad didn't work. I am so addicted to my iPad. And Steve fixed it because I couldn't get Greg. Greg is the family fixer. And every one of you, the Bill Gray part of my family, is what rescued us from Hitler. Not you, my darling Mary Lou. You weren't born yet, but your dad did, and your uncle did. And I would like us all to see how we can rescue our government from having ICE take the children from their parents. Thank you. I love you all. See you next Monday, and I'll tell you all about the prison work and learning not to judge.